So let's start with an introduction to you. Your full name, sir, is Daniel Evertz. So I'm curious as to how Daniel Evertz came to be known as Uncle Dan. I'm really curious about your history leading up to this persona that we have in front of us known as Uncle Dan. So please take it away, sir.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been in business for many years. I had a mortgage company for 28 years. And 2008 kind of wiped me out. I had to lay everybody off, and was doing very well with it. But I had seen it coming, and then so in 2005, I bought a franchise in the college planning industry because I never even heard of that, but I saw a presentation and I just love what they were doing. And so fast forward, continued on to 2018 with that after the mortgage industry imploded. And then I got involved more in retirement planning because I was planning on doing a little retiring myself. And sooner or later, and then COVID just made that sooner than later, even though I was still, as an entrepreneur, you're always doing stuff. So my wife and I, and a couple years ago, in late 21, we saw that the market was coming back, and we lived in a place called American Canyon, California, which is the gateway to the Napa Valley. And so what we did was we decided to, do something different. The kids are grown, and even though one's still with us, he's still grown. But so anyway, so we decided we wanted to do something different, and we relocated to Las Vegas, and that was in March of 22. And then after being retired for 3 months, that entrepreneur, you never retired. Who was I fooling? So I got that itch, and so I was trying to figure out what I really wanted to do because I was in financial services, for all those years. And so I was on a Zoom with a brother, Monty Land, on Instagram, and he had it was about 50 people on the Zoom, so he had me come out. He said, "Hey, older gentleman." I was like, "Oh, you talking to me?" As usual, I'm the oldest person in the Zoom because I'm a continual learner. And so I unmuted. He, hey man, you look like my uncle. He said, it's something about you. And so he said, what do you do? And I kind of gave him my background. He said, I want to give you this one for free. Change your brand to, instead of Dan, change it to Uncle Dan and watch what happens. So I did that. Um, and it just happens like a couple months later, my wife was like, I don't want to cook Thanksgiving. Let's go to one of these casinos. Let them do all the work. So we went down to the Palms. So we're getting got our plates, heading back to our seats, and there were two ladies. All of a sudden, I hear Uncle Dan, because I do a lot of networking. And man, so I look over, hey, walk over there. How's it going? My wife was just smiling, saying hello, and hey, hey, enjoy your happy Thanksgiving. Da 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 da. Great to see you. So we're walking back to our table. My wife is like, "Who is that? Who is that?" I was like, "I have no idea who those. It was two middle-aged white women." So she said, "I guess your brand is working." So guess what I did the following week? I went and I opened Uncle Dan Consulting Corp.
Very
And
nice.
I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I said I needed to do this, at a tax advantage, for me, financially. I knew I was going to do something. And then what happened was I got it. I found the tax credit industry about a month later, and I absolutely loved it because it's really no selling involved. It's pretty much you're basically giving away money, or really it's educating because there's so much out there. I think there are over 4,000 tax credits. So I said I love this. So because I was always educating in any business I've ever been in. So I jumped into it and I started out doing employee retention credit. And then I did that for a while, and then a lot of bad, shady characters got involved in that industry, and the IRS was getting files from Joe Blow pretending to be an accountant. How are you going to fool the IRS? A lot of those people going to jail, by the way. So they shut it down. They put a moratorium on it. And so in the meantime, I had switched over and was learning about all these other tax credits that were out there and available to help really it's for the, mainly for the small business owner, medium-sized business, but entrepreneurs as well. There's some things that they have that are on the table for them. So that's my story. Fast forward, I am very heavily involved in R&D tax credits. And just so you guys will understand, uh, I'm not a CPA. What I basically am is my company is a marketing company. And so what I do is I basically do, the marketing, the relationship building. I meet companies and I meet entrepreneurs that I think and I can be able to help. And pretty much from that point on, I identify, do a discovery session, and then if I figure that we can really help them, I throw it over to the shoulder to the people that do all the the heavy lifting and the breakdown of the sciences or the tax laws or whatever it may be. They take over, they do their thing, and then when everything every all the dust settles, then everybody gets compensated. So that's me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
So, staying on that vein, you do have representation on your industry that you prepared for this conversation. Would you like to share?
Absolutely. All right, let me see.
So what we'll do is we'll go through the presentation for those who have just joined, and then we'll take a couple of questions for Uncle Dan.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All righty. Let me see. I think it's this one here. No, make sure I got the right one here. Just do this. Get this. Go. Okay. So the slideshow from the beginning. All righty. All right. That, as you know, is my logo. This is my background, who I am. We kind of just went over that, but again, education is my forte for whatever industry that I'm really concentrating on. Because there's, and what I love about this group, Abu, is I'm the one that's being educated. I'm the old school guy in the group. I love these brothers. I mean, I am just they're so mission driven. And you know what I really like is everybody loves to share. I'm loving it. And I've never been in a group like that. Just like with black executive men with the brothers. I'm having such a great time, and I'm learning daily from every single one of you guys. So again, I need to always go through the legal stuff real quick. We are licensed and trained financial professionals who are responsible and educated in the tax credit field. Uncle Dan Consulting Course provides free workshops to the public. We do not promote or endorse any specific products or companies. The information provided in this workshop is strictly for educational purpose only and should not be considered as a source of investment, tax, legal, or financial advice. Please consult a licensed tax professional for advice and information. All right, there we go. So, as I was telling you earlier, Bo, I concentrate on these four. And but today we're going to talk about R&D because being in the AI group, I thought it was just very important for them to understand, and all of you to understand that the government has a lot of money sitting on the table, and it's just a matter of understanding what the who, what, where, why is it there? So today, each one of these, so you'll understand, R&D tax credits is what we're going to talk about today. There's a payroll tax credit, employee retention tax credit, and there's a self-employed tax credit. And generally, these are all available. And again, there's money sitting on the table. Now, Chuck Grassley, whether you like him or not, he was at a business conference, and this is what they were talking about. He was talking about helping business. Okay. And so, as he says, too often small and medium-sized businesses just simply are not taking advantage of the R&D and many other incentives. Median once said that 90% of life is showing up. The same is true with tax for small and medium businesses. You need to show up, absolutely. So, how do these companies not pay taxes? As we all know, they make billions of dollars, and combined, I think the collective they would have paid a total of $8.5 billion. Well, let me tell you something. One of the big, not incentives, but one of the big reasons why is because of the R&D tax credit. It can be huge. And basically, I'm not sure if you understand, and I'm just going to explain it to you. The difference between a tax deduction and a tax credit. Okay. So let's assume there's a company that just let's take, their gross was $400,000. Okay. At an effective tax rate of say 25%, they owe $100,000 in taxes. Okay. So that particular company has $100,000 in deductions, or rather known as write-offs. So basically what happens is they would take that 400 off to 300. And then once the CPA calculates the amount of savings, that would be about $25,000, okay, off of deductions. Now, with tax credits, it's a whole different ball game. And this is why a lot of even, businesses, they just don't know. If it was the same scenario, $400,000 profit, $100,000 is 25% effective tax rate. So you owe $100,000. Now, the average company that we're seeing, after you take the smaller ones and the larger ones, the average is about $250,000 back. So assume that you owe 100,000. So basically, well, out of that 250,000, 100,000 of that 250 would negate that tax bill that they would have to pay. And Abu, guess what happens to the other 150,000? I got you on mute, huh?
No, I've listened. I'm asking what happens to the 150?
You get a check back from the IRS
Very nice. Very
as your
nice.
company. That's why you see this particular slide is these companies not only not paying taxes, they are actually getting money back for the government because they're, it's a percentage of what the actual company does in their research and development. And doesn't mean, it has to be somebody in a white coat, quote, doing, in the lab doing laboratory experiments. And I'll go into that next. Again, this the history of tax credits, it started in 2081. And so again, there are billions of dollars available every single year, but small to medium businesses just don't know how to find or reduce or eliminate their taxes. Like the Fortune 500s, they deal with the top 5 CPA firms. And so those firms are not interested in helping the little guy. If can you, on average, so you guys will understand, a company that does R&D tax credits is going to charge a fee. The largest company in the country that actually specialize in this, they charge 35% of the recovery. So just imagine what that would be if and again, I don't know exactly what it is with these large companies, but if you recovered $1 billion, that's a pretty nice payday. So they're interested in those paydays, not payday for the smaller business.
I
So
know that
again,
I said I wasn't going to jump the gun on questions, but
no, that's fine.
something there just sparked a thought in me.
Mhm.
So you say new products or processes. So should I be putting in a new sales funnel? Would that classify as applicable to getting a tax credit?
You know what? I can't say absolutely because I'm not the
Okay.
CPA.
Okay,
but hey, I can say this, absolutely, I think so.
interesting. Thank
And I'm
you.
going to give you some examples of that. So again, basically, the whole thing is based on what's called an R&D study. And another question is, why aren't all these companies getting the study done? And I'm gonna tell you why. Because if you had 100 CPAs in the room, you'd have about five who know how to do an R&D study. So it's very complicated. It's not like, it's just, it's most of them are great at whatever they do within a company or within their own practice, but this is a whole different ball game. So major corporations aren't the only ones who can benefit from the R&D tax credit. Pretty much what this is telling you is um, all of us, whether we work for a company or we are involved in all these different things that qualify as their different activities. Um, Pretty much, do you make something? Is your company involved in software, manufacturing, architecture, agriculture, engineering, food or beverage, construction? You may be eligible for the credit. Are you making the same product the same way? It doesn't have to be something, Abu, that you bring to the market. This can be a process or something that's innovative or creative within your company. So you asked about digital marketing. There's always different things that you're doing as a new process. So that's why I said I am absolutely, I think you qualify. So again, this is very interesting because most companies, they have no idea about this. So this is a little history of how this process originated. And as you know, the United States government right now is really trying to enlarge their R&D because they're competing with China, competing with Russia, competing with companies all around the world. Everybody's trying to develop the new, the latest and the greatest weapons. Or I just read something yesterday about, like war games, how China has perfected a war game against, versus with using AI. All of that qualifies. So again, it started in 1981. The problem with it is from 81 until 2015, Congress would have to keep renewing the bill because it was not permanent. So, that's why a lot of people were not in it. And then from 81 to 2015, uh, it was really geared for big manufacturing. If you have a manufacturing plant, it was really geared toward that industry. But all that changed with the PATH Act of 2015. So what it did is it removed the need for periodic reauthorization, which means it became a permanent tax credit, unlike ERC, which many of you have probably heard of, employee retention credit. That expires next year. Self-employed tax credit retires is over in 2025. This is permanent. So the beautiful thing about an R&D tax credit is once your company gets it, it's an annual, almost basically an annual renewal. Of course, the CPA has to go in and recalculate the numbers, but you don't have to worry about whether it's going to be here next year, the year after, 3 years from now, 10 years from now. It is permanent. So again, now what happened because of all they change it a little bit, and what they're doing is they're making it easier for the small business to get the tax credit. Now, this is a little older slide from where it's actually the numbers are looking like 20 billion out of the 100 billion that was on the table was claimed. So what does that say? For me, as a consultant, that means that's a huge opportunity to really educate and let specifically for me, I'm really trying to take this to Black America. But I deal with everybody. Don't get me wrong. But if 95% of everyone else doesn't know about it, then I'm sure most of us do not know that this even exists. They may have heard about it, but they don't know what it is. So again, you would be surprised to hear that breweries and wineries are almost a slam dunk to get this particular credit. Special, anybody making wine, making alcohol, all the big distilleries, they're eligible, and there are tons of them across the country. And again, I was talking with this actual CPA firm I work with, and he was telling me this. He's just bringing on a guy in Northern California who owns 22 wineries, and he had never even heard of it. And once they did the calculations, he wouldn't give me the exact number, but he said, for each one of those wineries, it's not going to be a six-figure refund. It's going to be more like a seven-figure refund, because guess what? You can go back 3 years and you have to amend taxes, but you go back 3 years and recapture. So again, wow, you're talking about some serious money. Anybody that you guys know, construction engineer, anytime you know a contract or a construction company, what are they doing? They're always putting together the engineering to build whatever project they're doing. I guarantee you, probably 99% of them they don't know that this money is sitting on the table. Um, so again, the process, um, it's new improved product, formula, software. How many of us, in the AI group, that's all they talk about is software AI? Well, I'm sitting there going, man, you guys, you got your hands on something really, really hot, something really good. So, again, it's the process, invention, techniques, all of those qualify. So let me give you a little example here of these are the industries that qualify. And it's estimated just about 70% of industries in America are going to qualify in one way or another. Now, again, it's whatever percentage of your business is R&D is what's going to qualify for the credit. So again, every company is going to be different. So some companies are going to qualify for a lot more R&D, where other companies may qualify for a small amount. But you know what? I'm a big believer in free. Free is free. If you're going to get something back from the government, it's not going to cost you anything out of your pocket. Why not take it? So agricultural, beverages, construction and building, consumer retail, energy resource management, metalworking, materials handling, processing, of course, big manufacturing, many times in healthcare, food and retail, just depends on what they do, security, services, science and research, transportation, technology. Again, it's the process of what they're doing. So I want to give you guys some specific examples. I know these companies, but I'm only authorized to tell you about one of them. If you take a look at a contract manufacturer, they after doing the study, their annual revenues are 63 million. They got 1 million in federal and state R&D tax refunds. Now remember, the state, if you not every state has an R&D refund. So, but if you happen to be like in California, you're going to get a double whammy. It's not the amount after they do the study, but you're going to get federal and state R&D refunds. So e-commerce, we see this all the time. This is a company we work with. 31 million annual revenues, 2.2 million in federal, state, and R&D tax credit. That's huge. And the beautiful thing is, remember, you can go back 3 years. So if they weren't taking it, I mean, look at the numbers. That could be quite substantial. Apparel company, again, 1 billion in annual revenue. These are larger companies, but 5 million in federal and R&D. Now, there's a company out there. It's a frozen yogurt company named Mitchie's, and they had $20 million in annual revenue, and they had no idea that they were eligible. You know what made them eligible? The creative process of mixing all the yogurt flavors in your manufacturing plant made them eligible, and they are just over the top. You see, they got 1.3 million federal, state, and R&D tax credits. Remember, this is annual now. So basically, once we do the study, the next year the companies are preparing. So in many cases, the more R&D that they put into it, it might increase to a large amount. Again, autism programs are huge right now. All the research that they're doing, those companies, we're actually doing one right now where uh, their R&D credit is going to be around $6 million. So that's huge. So again, startups. Now let me talk about this for a minute. Startups, and again, 250,000 is a lot of money for a startup. Let me tell you why. In general, when you have, any company that's on this list is paying taxes. Okay, every single company, what this does is recapturing the taxes that the company has been paying. That's what it does. All the income taxes. Now, if you take the startups, okay, this is a startup that had 15 employees. Um, they receive back in R&D tax credits 250,000. So what the government says is this: even though you're not profitable in making or paying income taxes, but you know what they do have? They got 15 employees. I don't care who you are, you're gonna pay payroll taxes. So what does the government say? We're going to reward you because your R&D, whatever that amount comes out in the study, it's going to come back. So now the payroll taxes that the company has been paying is going to qualify for R&D. And let me tell you what the rule is on that. The rule is that you haven't started business within the last 5 years and you haven't made over $5 million. That is the rule to qualify for that. But I mean, even a startup, if they got an R&D of 100,000, 50,000 as a startup, that's a lot of money. So again, as you guys, Abu, you talked about digital marketing. Take a look at the digital marketing agency. So again, now these are pretty substantial R&D. I call them refunds more than credits because pretty much depending on, what the numbers, prove out to be, it's mainly refunds back to the actual company. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but pretty much what it does improves the products from sizes, technological in nature. It eliminate whatever you're doing, now you're going to eliminate the uncertainty, and there's some certain process of experimentation. These are the four keys of what the CPA is looking for to see if your company qualifies for an R&D tax study. So again, it can be an excellent benefit for small companies. And there are companies out there where the CEOs of the company, CEOs are really, a lot of them, especially if they're not a really big company, um, they're not making a ton of money for themselves. They're just getting a company and they're doing okay. But now there are several companies that we've run across that the CEO salary pretty much is the R&D tax credit every single year. Isn't that something? Before I really delved deeply into this, I had no idea. So again, I'll tell you what's really interesting is that the credit is not easy if the tax professional does not know what they're doing. So again, to qualify for the credit, it can be a good idea to work with a company that specializes in qualifying company and determining, because it could, if you don't know what you're doing, it's very complicated for the CPA industry itself. So if it's complicated for them, can you imagine, someone trying to jump into this and start trying to learn how to do the credit? I don't think so. It's going to be really tough. Fortunately for me, one of the companies I work with, that's all that they do is the study, period. They don't do any type of other work. They concentrate on the study alone, and we have teams of CPAs that know how to do this, been doing it for I think 7 or 8 years now. Now, another thing, what happens if you're an entrepreneur? And I added the slide earlier. I wanted you guys to know that uh, there are ways that you may qualify, even if you have no employees. Because you have no employees, you're not paying any payroll taxes, right? So again, the credit encompasses a wider range of costs associated with innovation, including supplies, materials, outside contract, and even cloud computing. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're doing AI, right, make sure that your CPA or your bookkeeper is keeping track of all of your expenses. Now, what is the challenge? The challenge is I just spilled that one, didn't I? is I told you I just worked on this. Is there enough expenses for a specialized CPA firm to do the study for small return?
Yeah.
Um,
Uncle Dan, let me do this.
uh-huh.
'Cause I'm sure that folks have a lot of questions, and I'm kind of being mindful of time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you mind if we kind of get some questions in?
No, let's go ahead. Let's do it because I'm pretty
So,
much done. I just had a couple more slides. Nothing. We're good.
okay. Um, do you want to run through the slides quickly and
Yeah,
maybe we
I'll
can
just
get some
knock these out
questions
real
in?
quick. The benefits
Okay.
of R&D tax credits are hidden immediate, serving cash for many small and mid-sized businesses. It increases the market value of that particular company, lower the company's effective tax rates, creates a significant reduce current and future years federal, state, income tax liability, permanent tax savings every single year. And pretty much it's just a three-step process. And I'm pretty much done. Again, you have to really understand and know what you're doing in order to get involved to do one of the studies. So again, that's pretty much the end. That is my contact information. But I'm in a group. You can just disperse that however you would like. I am going to escape and I'm going
All right.
to stop the sharing and we can get to some questions.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, you're
Actually,
welcome.
if you can put leave your contact down for minutes. I mean, before we get to it, let me just kind of kick this off by saying I went through an R&D process maybe about 10 years ago, and it was very painful. Um, it took us about 5 months to kind of get the paperwork together. I think that's what you call the R&D study. I had to
Uh-huh.
actually write it.
Ooh.
I worked with a CPA, medium-sized CPA firm here, but it was very painful.
Mhm.
Given the time that I took to kind of complete it, I thought, you know what, it doesn't make sense because that's my time that I've been using to generate revenue. But I am curious, how long does your process take? Because this is a question that I have, and I think a lot of people, certainly have that question.
It takes about 5 hours of your time
Total or
total.
daily?
No, no. So you went through the old school. It's everything with who we work with. It takes about 5 hours total to and it's a lot of just gathering documents and doing a lot of the heavy lifting that what he's going to do, and then you get a list of what you're going to need. And again, that question is asked quite often, and that total is about 5 hours.
Right, thank you. I'll put it up now. So we have Dr. Okay, Stan, and Tala, and well, the host. Do you have any questions for Uncle Dan? I have more questions that I could pepper him with, but I'll open it up to you guys.
Hey, Uncle Dan, this is Stan. Um, Thanks for walking through that presentation. I think sort of my first question is around uh, I think you said that uh, the main thing is tracking all of the expenses that you've incurred in the pursuit of new innovations, which I think based on one of your slides covered everything from new software to new techniques and new processes. Uh, what I'm curious about is in this R&D study,
Mhm.
is there a certain, I guess, criteria set or threshold that must be met in order to sort of qualify for, let's call it new processes, new techniques to be considered, you know, within the bounds of what we're shooting for with respect to this R&D study?
Well, to answer your question, it's pretty much any innovative new process, anything creative, anything, and it doesn't have to be new to the market. This is a new process within your company. Like if you are working with AI, right, and you are doing all of the you know the calculations, experimentations, everything in there, that is pretty much new for every company. So just about any company that's in the software, software R&D, the AI, anything that is in the technical realm, they're going to qualify.
Yeah,
But
and I think and I think just 1 second, Uncle Dan. What I think what I'm getting at is does the CPA firm, like, what is the level of depth that they get into, right? Are they breaking open the algorithm, so to speak? I'm kind
no,
of, digging, or
no,
is it just more of just kind of a common sense approach, right? Where they're
correct.
just okay.
Yeah, correct. Because what they're doing is, they're not going to get that deep into what the algorithm is doing anything. It's more general. So what they'll do is they'll do an interview and ask some qualifying questions about what you're doing without getting real specific. So pretty like I said, in most of these industries, you're going to qualify. Um, so hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Let me take another stab at it. So a lot of the work that I do as well, in terms of my consulting, is process improvement. So Stan, I guess if you consider a basic process of invoicing, if you were to, again, correct me, Uncle Dan, if you were to do it manual and bring in technology to kind of automate it, would that be considered a process improvement, a new way of working within your organization that could qualify?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. But look, I absolutely, I think so. I'm not the CPA. Just want to clarify that. But, based on what you're telling me, it sounds like, it would definitely would most
Yeah,
likely qualify.
so
Most
from
likely.
from my from my experience, Stan, it's also how it's written. It's also how it's written um, to bolster the innovation in the documentation. That's kind of what I learned going through the process several years ago.
And just to take it 1 step further, Uncle Dan,
Mhm.
and I would thank you for making that point. That's super helpful, actually. My mind is a little bit blown with the example, frankly. Um, so in terms of startup, um, like, you're running in the red for a long time because of just the monstrous amount of investment that it takes to just get to, a certain level of sustainability. So what
Mhm.
I'm hearing you say, Uncle Dan, is that that's expected, and that really it's about really producing very robust documentation to show and substantiate all the expenses that you've incurred to date, that you continue to incur, in terms of driving and pushing your organization to the point where it's got that breakthrough moment in the market. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then what actually when they do the study, they're going to assign, let's assume you have 5 employees. Okay. And so what they're going to do with the study is, they're going to ask questions about, like, what percentage of their time is used for the R&D, for the creative process, whatever it is, whatever. So each employee is going to be assigned, because different companies do different things, but how much of it is involved in something new? And that being the case, like the CEO, pretty much his 100% of if he's paying himself, or 100% of uh, the payroll on that is going to qualify. And then probably, just depending on what that employee actually is doing. I actually have a sample study of one. I don't have it today, but that being the case, everybody's going to be, after they get through doing their study, it'll be a breakdown of exactly how much that particular employee qualifies for the R&D.
Good evening. I have a question. Thank you so much, Uncle Dan, for your insights. So I guess, well, I have my takeaway, and perhaps in a few questions. So my part of my background is in government and policy, and because I have the experience of drafting legislation, um, it is a very strategic and intentional process because the language that is used is critically important in terms of whether you are going to make it vague or ambiguous
Mhm.
uh, for, let's say, smaller companies or people that work on the ground to shape their own programming or to take advantage of what is being made available. And so you referenced several key pieces of legislation in your slides that certainly qualify for how government um, provides ways in which people can frame their own, um, you know, uh, programs and things like that. And so, um, how would you? So it sounds like, and I think this is my question is kind of similar to Abu's, where um, my wife, she is an executive coach.
Mhm.
She uses a virtual assistant.
Mhm.
Um, and she does the invoicing. She has the whole thing going.
Mhm.
So, would the fact that she is investing in a VA qualify for R&D? That's one question. Then, you know, my other question then is with the R&D study, is that study free? Is it
Yes.
talk to try to get that off the ground?
Generally, what we do is I set up a discovery call um, with the CPA firm, and so after we set up discovery call, then they'll ask you some qualifying questions, like some of the things that you're talking about. If one of the criteria is a technical in nature, what you're doing, and so um, that I don't know the answer to that question. I know that everything pretty much these days has some type of technical aspect to it. But specifically to your case, I wouldn't know, but they would if we set something up and it's just having a conversation to see, if you possibly may qualify or not. I know the money that you pay outside contractors does qualify.
Okay.
So
Well,
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely look to reach out to you as things evolve with where we are on our side with our businesses. So thank you so much.
awesome.
I mean, I know thank you, gentlemen. I know that from my conversations with Stan, the innovation that goes into product management, I mean, certainly, it's a lot of stuff there that I know that you can buy a good chunk from in terms of this particular conversation, Stan. So I hear you in terms of it blows your mind because you've been working for the last several years. Get your money back, sir.
can
Awesome.
can I ask just another follow-up question, Uncle Dad?
Sure.
Uh, so I feel like you said, quite a bit about um, qualifying calls. Can you
Mhm.
give an example of certain scenarios where a prospect did not qualify to move forward with the full study?
Yeah, what I'm seeing consultants come with is they're coming with, consultants will try to get anybody qualified. Quite frankly, if they get qualified, they're gonna get paid. But I mean, a somebody try to qualify a food truck, a restaurant. That's not going to qualify because it's not technical in nature. Um, but again, on the reverse side, real estate, right? You would think, no, what do they have to do? Well, a one of the companies that they just got back R&D was just through the conversation of the discovery call, they happened to mention that they had hired some engineers to put together this new process for the real estate agents. So that qualified them. So again, if it's totally non-technical in nature, it's pretty much going to be disqualified. you got to have some technical aspect to it. So that is probably the, after you go through the other three qualifications, you know, is it creative? Does it basically solve a problem? Um, you know, once you get through that, it's just, it has to have some teacher. That's why the brother that was just talking to me, I'm not sure, because I'm not sure if the writing aspect, but there's probably more to it that I don't know. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, thank you.
You know,
Tola, do you have a question for Uncle Dan? Yeah,
Hey, sorry, I did come on a little bit late. First and foremost, thank you, sir, for this presentation. Very interesting. To believe it or not, I actually meet a lot of your criteria, especially when you started going into R&D taxes. That is definitely an area of specialty that I should be delved in much more, and I'm not at the current moment. And I'll be honest to tell you that if I was trying to right now, that would be a lie because there's so much other things happening. Um, I have been told a lot of my expenses can be offloaded as R&D taxes or other variants of taxes. So when you mentioned those things, I definitely made a mental note that I have to follow up with you as well. And I do have your information as well. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. No, my pleasure, man. My whole thing is just to get this out to as many people that are in the space, particularly that may qualify. Because I hate to see, you know, I see the government throwing away wasted money left and right. But you know, something like this, there's legitimate people that are doing legitimate work, like the brother I just spoke to, and Stan, and the other brother as well, that you know may qualify, but they just, this is something they don't know about, and so that's my whole goal. And so again, I'm with, you know, I work with different companies regardless of, you know, of course, the larger the credit, the, you know, I like that, of course. You know, I'm just being transparent, but it doesn't matter to me. We got to help somebody, period. You know, that's what relationships are built upon. And that's why I just love the Black executive men, man, because I got a feeling I'm gonna know a lot of you brothers for a long, long time. So
Big
thank
facts.
you.
Yes, sir. That was 100%. That right there is the best way to end that right there, sir. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
you're
Tola.
welcome.
So let's take Doctor and then come back to Stan. Doctor, okay?
well, Stan put his hand up first. I want to
Okay, I
respect,
wasn't
please.
sure. Hey, Stan, go ahead.
Hey, I respect the host's direction, so please go ahead.
That's over, please.
Okay. Uh, um, I was just going to ask. So, um, I want to get your contact information. I didn't catch it when it was on the screen. And then, secondly, do you know, or do you happen to know how much on average households save or can get back in terms of the actual credit? Is there, are there numbers that can be,
it
you know?
it depends on whether they are it's really on how much are you paying in income taxes is really what it is. Because what the credit is just, it's really an award for your innovation and creativity. So
Okay.
basically you're able to recapture what you're paying. But if you're not paying any income taxes, you know, there's nothing to capture unless you are a startup within the last 5 years and haven't made $5 million. Then the government will pay, you know, will provide you with a, pretty much give you your payroll taxes back. Now, if you don't have any employees yet, that doesn't mean you won't later. So you may be doing some great work right now, but you're thriving and you know doing what you need to do to bring something to market or whatever the business is that you're doing. So or like I said in one of the last slides that I had, it talked about, you know, making sure that you definitely document all your qualified expenses that you're doing. Um, did you see that slide?
Yes.
You did. Okay. So then it's going to be based on that. And again, it probably has to be, I don't know, I would say $10,000 a year at least. And again, the majority of the ones that they do are much larger. But my the company I work with, he's really cool. Just put it like that. You know, it's less work for him to do, and so if we can, you know, help somebody that may not be in that situation where they're gonna be, then let's give it a shot.
Sure.
Okay. So we have about 5 minutes left.
Okay.
Stan, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So Uncle Dan, what I literally do for a living is I work closely with executives who run, let's call it analog companies, right? So you're talking companies that just have not come into the 21st century in terms of how they operate end to end, or they just haven't reimagined their operations and way of working to kind of bring it up to this place where they're now tapping into new revenue streams that are made possible through apps and websites and et cetera,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So I'm curious to know if you've come across such executives that didn't even think about making that investment and realizing that is technically, based on what I'm hearing, is
Mhm.
technically a potential cost neutral investment for a major upside, right? So if I expend 500K to bring my company up to modern times, and
Mhm.
oh, by the way, by doing that, I've unlocked 3 new revenue streams, right? So that 500K really has become, let's call it 10 million
Mhm.
in new revenue. But then on top of that, you're telling me that the government's going to give me back, technically speaking, my 500K or maybe 450 of that 500K, right? Something like that. Do
Yep.
you see executives even having, and by executives, I mean like, company owners, et cetera, who even
Mhm.
have that mindset? Or is it more like, I happen to have spent and invested some money over the years and I'm getting that back? But do you see those kind of thinking forward?
The majority of the ones I run across have, you know, in the world we live in, you kind of keep up with the Joneses. And so the majority of them are doing some, you know, some type of, you know, technical research, creativity, innovation, whatever. So I don't run across some ones that aren't, but it would, you know, for yourself or what you're doing, trying to bring them into this might be a great, you know, something that can really help benefit your business. And, you know, I have an awesome, you know, I'm an old dude, man. I don't spend much money on anything no more. You know, I live in Vegas. Eat, go see shows. That's all we really do. So I have a really good, you know, like affiliate that I do for people. So you may not, you know, you may not have a company that qualifies, but you probably know of companies that would qualify for this. So, you know, we can have a conversation offline about that. But again, you know, some of these can be quite substantial revenue. And like I said, I'm not greedy. I don't mind sharing. You know, I need to get in front of that company just like you do, Stan. You
Yeah.
know, so yep.
Okay.
Are you able to share your information either in the chat or in the group or on the
Okay.
screen?
Uncle Dan, if you can kind of put it up for the
Yeah. Let
next,
me.
we have about 2 minutes.
Okay. Let me hold on 1 second here. Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Another riveting session. I'm taking copious notes as usual, even
Yes.
though I'm Canadian and the laws may be different here.
But Canadians are huge on R&D tax credits. But again, I'm sure, Abu, that it's different than when you went through it.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much. Uncle Dan, as always, it's a pleasure having you. Stan, Tola, Dr. OK, appreciate you all spending the evening with us today. Have a good evening, and I look forward to seeing you again, same time, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Take care.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.